Let me get myself together. How are y'all doing? Y'all good? Let me get this mic situated. Got my journal in front of me. It is so nice to be here with y'all today. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank y'all for just braving this beautiful garden on a beautiful night in the fall. I'm just really honored to be here. I'm excited. I have people to thank. Thank you, Tina, for being here from Missouri. I got people online that are from Missouri watching. I just want to give a quick shout out to Stevens College and also Judith Clark and Tom. I'm just thinking of y'all. I'm just so honored to be here. Thank you for everyone who made this festival possible. I hope y'all have enjoyed the wonderful stuff that's been happening, and tomorrow as well. So I'm just blessed to be here. I'm just really blessed. I just want to call that into the space for a minute. We are blessed to sit here and think about poetry in this space. Y'all, I don't know. I often read this poem first because I often need the bravery of ancestors when I get in front of people. This is not easy for me. This is a cento dedicated to Audre Lorde. Poetry is not a luxury. And I'm going to start here. Prayer for Audre Lorde. We told to be silent about our magic and our fear and what we carved from their terror. Our wings cobbled from nightmare and chestnut grow by the light of our truth. They fear it. Our wild eye spawning this flourish without their approval. Ask us to whisper our need to be real and realized, but we through with that form of survival, examining our mother's dreams and deaths. Feel the spirits living in our power when we kneel, giving birth to old language. Live because there are sanctuaries, poems in our children that speak of what survived in the deep, ancient place. Name it so it rises to the surface, beautiful and frightening and free. I was sitting in the house over here, Dickinson's house, and I was thinking about her sun porch, the observatory, where she used to write and look out at these flowers. And if I'm, please correct me if I'm wrong, but her father helped curate that space for her, brought these flowers in as kind of like a way for her to kind of see the flowers in all seasons. And I didn't want to read this poem today, but I'm going to read it. My mother kept a sun porch. We lived in inner city Kansas City. Living in a city, where do you grow gardens, right? Turns out everywhere, anywhere, right? That you can find a space, right? And so, she'd bring the flowers or her plants into a room in our house. And I think about her a lot because I have my own sun porch now, where I grow plants every year. And then I'm always sad when I have to bring them in the house because it's like saying goodbye. Goodbye to this space that's sacred, but not really because it's still part of you, right? I think this is appropriate too. And damn, I need a minute. Because Sometimes survival looks like a sun porch crowded with living plants, despite how much I've been told I can't keep anything alive. Every muslin green kniving from the dirt reminded me of my mama's tongue, blade up, a warning with roots. I'm learning to care for other living things in myself. I overwater my aloe and my liver. Forget my fern needs shade as much as my heart needs to sleep in the dark sometimes. Crowd my tomato plants the way I choke on thoughts of leaving myself. I kill them sometimes. I try again next season. I touch their new leaves when I can't sleep. Whisper my worry because what will be left for my children? Who will take cuttings and grow them in their own rooms if this world is dead? I give them what I have. My voice, water, house in winter. I fill my sun porch with the living and the dead, and I talk to both. I put soil on my tongue because I want to taste both. I remember how my mama said, "I need a minute," when she got home from work and gave her tired to a chair, closed the door to the kitchen to escape her screaming house, and talked to her philodendron crawling up the wall. Like my mama packed a room with plants like gauze in a wound, I'm trying to know healing from the inside out, feeling a space with what I keep alive and what has kept me. I need a minute to breathe better in a room of reminders of my mama's cutting tongue. Shout out to Aunt Kim, too. I'm about to read a poem for her. It's interesting to me, too, because kitchens are like domestic spaces, but they are also beautiful spaces that we are able to collect ourselves. This is a poem about that. Feast. Never felt like my hands belonged anywhere near my aunt's kitchen unless the food was already made and I was fixing myself a plate. So when she trusts me with a job as important as the sweet potato pie, of course my hands shake, pulling it out of the oven, trying to make it look as easy as she does. And my wrist catches on the metal lip of the rack, and I drop what took me too long to peel and boil and season in the first place. There are worse things to fall to your knees for, but I don't know, in a Black woman's kitchen, this feels like a sin. And instead of casting me out, she steps over the mess on her floor and sets her eyes on my injury, turning the puckering skin of my wrist over in her hands, saying, "It don't look that bad," like she's done all my life when I broke my face on the sidewalk or cut my own hair. She starts over on another pie like it's no big thing, like she did when my uncle went into a bedroom closet and bit down on the barrel of his revolver. After the funeral, she stayed in the kitchen. Even when the company came and tried to take over her grief, she just kept making her own morning feast, pulling heavy pans out the oven. Like then, I watch her mind go into another room where it can be unbothered. While I nurse my burn with the aloe she grows on the windowsill, she hums, blends brown sugar and butter to the soft-boiled bodies of sweet potato, her brisk cinnamon hand turning orbits of gold in the cracked clay bowl that stays steady on her hip. This is a new one. I want to say it's very gentle. I'm going to be really gentle with this poem. It's new in my mouth, so please forgive me if I'm stumbling over it. This is for my mother. I know I read that poem about the sun porch. After she died, I ended up taking things home from her, and it's a strange thing to go home with things from your mother and think about where they belong, and you're home now. And the truth is, like, they're always here, right? For they will inherit. In her absence, I water her plants, praying she is somewhere in the work I do. On my way back to Boston, I carried cuttings of her spider plants in my purse to bring my inheritance home. I propagate, embed their new roots, admire their anchor, and all the small, unseen energy it takes to just go on. Mostly, I collect water for them who kept her company on this earth. Ask them to forgive this poor substitute who doesn't sing the same to them, but remembers she did and tries on a song. When I forget to pull back the curtains, they do not know the language of shame. Slowly, they do on their own, send out longer arms to any slice of light. I try to open so that what I inherit has more of what it needs. What life kisses goes deep enough to root. Inheritance sometimes a map for how to continue. I never meant to survive her. It will take too much of me to call this beauty, to accept the use of it. Two more. Y'all good? And then y'all get to hear Terrance Hayes. That's like, yeah, that's everything, right? I mean, like, for real. I'm gonna try to get through this poem. This is a hard poem for me too. Nothing came in a really hard time in my life. I'm a teacher, and that work is hard. When my mother was a teacher for so many years, and the first thing she said to me was, "Please don't be a teacher." But like the truth was, like she did so much good work, and at her funeral, so many of her students came and just spoke about her. And I think about that legacy that goes unseen and unrecognized. So this started from a student in my class, and I hope that student is well wherever they are, because I think about them a lot. And then it ends with another student. Make sure I have everything. Okay. Nothing. I ask a student how I can help her. Nothing is on her paper. It's been that way for 35 minutes. She has a headache. She asked to leave early. Maybe I asked the wrong question. I've always been dumb with questions. When I hurt, I too have a hard time accepting advice or gentleness. I owe for an education that hurt, and collectors call my mama's house. I do nothing about my unpaid bills as if that will help. I do nothing about the mold on my ceiling and it spreads. I do nothing about the cat's litter box and she pisses on my new bath mat. Nothing isn't an absence. Silence isn't nothing. I told a woman I loved her, and she never talked to me again. I told my mama a man hurt me, and her hard silence told me to keep my story to myself. Nothing is full of something, a mask that grows where you cut at it. I've lost 3 aunts when white doctors told them the thing they felt was nothing. The doctor told me that by the time my mama got to the hospital, there was already nothing they could do. Nothing could be done when it clawed at their breathing. I sat in different rooms while it killed them. I'm afraid when nothing keeps me in bed for days. I imagine what they become underground, and I cry for them in my sleep where no one can see. Nothing is in my bedroom, but I smell my aunt's perfume and wake to my name called from nowhere. I've never looked into a sky and said it was empty. Maybe that's why I imagine a God up there to feel what seems unimaginable. Some days I want to live inside the words more than my own black body. When the white man shoves me so he can get on the bus first, when he says I am nothing, but fits it inside a word and no one stops him, I wear a bruise in the morning where he touched me before I was born. My mama's shame spreads inside me. I've heard her say there was nothing in a grocery store she could afford. I've heard her tell the landlord she had nothing to her name. There was nothing I could do for the young black woman that disappeared on her way to campus. They found her purse and her phone, but nothing led them to her. Nobody was there to hold Renisha McBride's hand when she was scared of dying. I worry poems are nothing against it. My mama said if I became a poet or a teacher, I'd make nothing, but I've thrown words like rocks and hit something in a room when I aim for a window. One student says when he writes, it feels like nothing can stop him, and his laughter unlocks a door. He invites me into his living. This last poem is for Gwendolyn Brooks. This is a variation, but this is called Girl Breaking Glass. Six of 8 shots hit Stephon Clark's back. I tell everyone because that's how I feel. The fact, a gutted deer in the sky. I wish it would rain. I tell the barista who just wants to ring up my coffee, the woman reading her phone on the train. I type it into my email subject line trying to send a message to my boss. I erase my subject line and try to correct my thoughts. There is no room for me to process police acquittals. I can't take the day off. I need to work to survive. My anger is displaced. I yell at my white neighbor who tells me to just calm down. I feel nothing when she cries. Surrender her hands to the threat in my voice. How easy to imagine my body a weapon I've never owned. I'm sick all the time. I can't shake this cough. I'm afraid to heal. I call myself stupid when I knock over my wine or forget my keys. I take in sadness like a corpse holds water. My favorite place to cry is in public bathrooms. The black woman who shares the sink with me doesn't ask what's wrong when I come out of the stall, doesn't ask me where the why comes from when it drops like a blackened tooth from my mouth. She looks at our bodies in the mirror and reaches for me like my mama only does in dreams now. She's the first person I let touch me all day. The smell of roses on her shoulder is a grace I don't know I need until I'm already on my knees. Thank you.
I feel like I'm gonna fall right forward into the, thanks, Krysten, that was great. I can't wait to talk to you with Nicole. In fact, I'm just gonna read, since we're gonna have a Q&A. They told me they needed work in advance, so I typically just try to read new stuff. But tonight I will read, some of the stuff that's in the books, so you'll be able to get them. I did bring 2 or 3 new things. I'm gonna set my timer I'm going to read Jane, Brooke. Everybody, it's been great. The students are great. The space is amazing. And we'll talk about Dickinson. I'm going to set it. Let's see, is it going? Okay, so I'm just going to read. Well, look, the first one on the back. I started writing these American sonnets for my past and future assassin, in 2016. Now people be asking me, am I going to write them again? Since we're in the same place. And I say, past and future. I knew we might get back here. So I'll just read and just only say, I hope people are watching the news. You got to watch more than one news so you can break out of your bubble. You cannot watch your news on Instagram. PBS is still good while it's there. The Guardian is good. Democracy Now! Is depressing, but good. Always depressing, but good. She does a great job. Al Jazeera. And then a little sprinkling of stuff, a little bit of a podcast here and there. You just got to be informed. What you do with that information is your business. But when you get it, I think you're going to do the right thing. If you're doing the wrong thing, you haven't been watching the news. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. So like here, American sonnet for my past and future assassin. Some of them are definitions. And so, some days I think this to America, and then some days I think it's directly to, the trumpeteering person, the trumpet. So today I feel like that. So I'm talking right to him. I lock you in an American sonnet that is part prison, part panic closet, a little room in a house set aflame. I lock you in a form that is part music box, part meat grinder to separate the song of the bird from the bone. I lock your persona in a dream-inducing sleeper hold while your better selves watch from the bleachers. I make you both Jim and Crow here. As the Crow, you undergo a beautiful catharsis trapped one night in the shadows of the gym. As the gym, the feel of crow shit dropping to your floors is not unlike the stars falling from the pep rally posters on your walls. I make you a box of darkness with a bird in its heart. Voltas of acoustics, instinct, and metaphor. It is not enough to love you. It is not enough to want you destroyed. You can't, the violence ain't gonna work. It's not enough. Clearly, it's not enough to be totally forgiving either. So, the book is somewhere in the middle of that, right? Like, how do you write love poems for people trying to wipe you out? Here's another one. Actually, what I was thinking, because I thought maybe the students would still be here, so I have this little through line of the bird running through these poems. So they seem like they're all sonnets, but I'm really playing with this bird thing, and, that's my mama usually. So this is one of those poems that does that for me. American sonnet for my past and future assassin. Inside me is a black-eyed animal bracing in a small stall, as if a bird could grow without breaking its shell, as if the clatter of 1,000 blackbirds whipping in a storm could be held in a shell. Inside me is a huge black bull, balled small enough to fit inside the bead of a nipple ring. I mean to leave a record of my raptures. I was raised by a beautiful man. I loved his grasp of time. My mother shaped my grasp of space. Would you rather spend the rest of eternity with your wild wings bewildering a cage, or with your 4 good feet stuck in a plot of dirt? Okay, so I got Dickinson in a poem. There's no Whitman in this book. Can I say that? I mean, I would say this anywhere. I did start out liking Whitman when, you're young and you got ambitious and you want to win everything and be number one. You like Whitman. He just working on the same poem. He worked on very few poems. He kept revising the same book. But as you get older, you realize what you really want to do is to be able to write every day, even if you just have a little envelope or a little piece of something, and even if it's just a letter to someone, even if it's just a letter to the person across the yard, that's a better habit. So as I have gotten older, I deeply appreciate the work itself, but the work ethic of Emily Dickinson is what we really celebrate. A person who's like, if you're gonna see it, maybe you're gonna see it. I'm writing it for myself, and here we are in the yard. So that could be any one of us in here going home to write poems tonight and saying, oh, give me 100, 150 years. I don't know, we can talk about this in the Q&A. I think this humanizes Dickinson because I feel like people were like, oh, you sexualizing her. But masturbation, is that sex? That's like self-care. So I don't think it's a poem about sex. I think it's a poem about self-care. Okay, so here we go. American Sonnet for My Past and Future Assassin. We suppose Miss Dickinson is like the abandoned lover of Orpheus, and two, that she loved to masturbate, whispering lonely, dark blue lullabies to death, with a capital D, that would be Wiz Khalifa. Because Galway Canal writes of St. Francis, whose touch made a sow ecstatic, consider how it would be to make every creature shudder in orgasm. If you got one of your paws on a blackbird, you'd see the blackbird shift and shatter like a vessel of ink. If you brushed the ear of a stranger, her jaw and eyes and fingers would clench on a dark blue feeling. If, like the bear in the deep image poem, you got a paw on a fish in a river, you would feel the fish convulse like the flesh flooded with blood and the dark blue crush of touching yourself to death. Here's another kind of a definition of, the sonnet form. Actually, two of them, I guess. American Sonnet for My Past and Future Assassin. So if there's something like that ambivalence in the first poem, maybe that's the through line. Our sermon today concerns the dialectic blessings in transgression and transcendence. We're on the middle floor where the darkness we bury is equal to the lightness we intend. We stand in the valley and go to our knees on the mountain. One rope pulls a body down and into earth, and the other pulls up and after stars. To be divided is to be multiplied. Let us ponder how it is that you and I have remained alive. In Mississippi and all the seas bound to sky by rain, the root and reach of all the trees. When the wound is deep, the healing is heroic. Suffering and ascendance require the same work. Our sermon today sets the beauty of sin against the purity of dirt. Here's another one. Again, what I'm saying is like if you're writing every day, which is sort of what this came out of for a person who works on a poem for years, to try to crank them out goes back to the lesson of Dickinson, which also means you can just circle things. So, several times I was not only thinking about the bird image, but also just like, again, what it was that I was trying to do. So this would be another kind of a definition of, on this day, what I thought an American Sonnet was about. American Sonnet, they all have different names now. It's like John Smith. So you think I'm saying the same title, but I'm not. I'm saying a different title every time. American Sonnet for My Past and Future Assassin. The song must be cultural, confessional, clear, but not obvious. It must be full of compassion and crows bowing in a vulture's shadow. The song must have 6 sides to it and a clamor of voltas. The song must turn on the compass of language like a tangle of wire endowed with feeling. The notes must tear and tear. There must be a love for the minute and minute. There must be a record of witness and daydream. where the heart is torn or feathered and tarred, where death is undone, time diminished, the song must hold its own storm and drum and shed a noise so lovely it is sung at sunset weddings, baptisms, and beheadings henceforth. So this book isn't all sonnets, and I have a few to read that aren't sonnets in here. But I'll read one of them as I'm just trying to get out of the form. So this one is me trying to cross bridges in some ways. So it's called American Sonnet for My Grandfather's Love Child. You take a tree where all the blackbirds are sleeping, except for the one clapping its wings. That's the kind of woman who raised me. My mother changed her name to daughter, then to sister, then back to mother again. 3 times she parked outside her wretched father's house, undertaking a melancholy kind of karaoke. She can't sing, really. She's ashamed of her teeth. But she pretended an MC was saying, "Give her a hand," when she finished. I wasn't there, but I bet she jangled her car keys as if she was offering a small girl a ride to the beach, to the ocean side, to the water a girl becomes to survive, and the soft applause washing ashore when she retreats. To love her, I had to love the night curling up around me. I woke up surprised whether she was coming or going. So here's a little crossover. This is not a sonnet, but these poems also have the same title. I actually wrote 6 of them, and I just put 2 in the book, one in the front and one in the back. And here, too, is just, again, about the ending. I was just trying to work out the ending. Strange as the rules of grammar. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's beautifully iambic name. Do not think of all the tall in him squeezing into a stall at the mall as strange. Some days his father whispered to himself, someday that boy is going to change his name. I ran away from home as soon as I had a chance when I was 4 or 5 in the Carolinas. Certain words never used to cross my mind. A God who claims to be on the side of good but remains hidden is strange as the rules of grammar. The mouth fills with mouthfuls of grammar, strange as the flowers a lost child finds in the woods and consumes, strange as that a toddler cries in public when something shiny appears, a candy hard as a ruby wrapped in plastic, a lonely coin blinking in the grass or at the bottom of a well, within the toddler's grasp. The first time my parents left me alone with a babysitter, I ran away before noon. They spent hours looking for me before going home to find I had been waiting on the porch the whole day. They say. You too may recall a story so old you never thought to mention it to anybody. Strange as the first wound you ever received, the scar so old others must tell you how it was made. And I'm going to read one more. Here's another one with this title. And again, Q&A. So I ain't talking about nothing. Strange as the rules of grammar. The 2 or 3 times I saw Lil Wayne hanging out at the Praline Connection in New Orleans, he had a mouth full of bling, covered in forkfuls of greens or green beans, or white rice and red beans, on a tongue of strange, lucrative grammar. The answer will be that which allows the best possible future when the plaintiffs come before the judge or the farmers before the king. It is not that which incurs unrest. The photograph does not belong to the photographer, it belongs to the camera. God jerry-rigs to the back of the barn owl and a bat. We get a bird's eye view via the camera, attached to the bat, under cover of fur and weather, strange as the rules of grammar. Like the branch of the forest industry tasked with trimming branches. Strange as the sound of your signature on paper. All the animals, unbeknownst to us, communicate using telepathy. The owl films the room wherein you sit reflecting on something strange as the rules of grammar, between being grounded and being buried, between being anchored and sinking. You know how they say at the forked tongue of the crossroads and at the crooked foot of the foothills, nothing you haven't already heard? Strange as the first wound you ever received, the scar so old, others must tell you how it was made. All right, I should end on this one, but I got 6 minutes, so that means I might end on less good stuff. I'm gonna be done here short. Does that say 6 minutes? That does say 6 minutes. I can't believe I still got 6 minutes. So we'll see what happens with the new stuff, but I'm gonna throw this one in here now. American signing for the new year. I mean, it's just always true. When I wrote it, I thought I was done. I got 6 minutes. When I wrote it, I thought it was the last sonnet I would ever write. And you see they're still in the book, so they'll be in the next one too, clearly, because like Dickinson, it's just the best way to clean your palate sometimes, you know? Like, I can write the other kinds of poems, which you haven't heard any of tonight, but sometimes you just need to clean your palate with the form, you know? So this is, again, what I'm doing here. Okay, American signing for the new year. Things got terribly ugly incredibly quickly. Things got ugly embarrassingly quickly, actually. Things got ugly unbelievably quickly, honestly. Things got ugly seemingly infrequently initially. Things got ugly ironically, usually awfully carefully. Things got ugly unsuccessfully, occasionally. Things got ugly mostly painstakingly, quietly, seemingly. Things got ugly beautifully, infrequently. Things got ugly sadly, especially frequently, unfortunately. Things got ugly increasingly obviously. Things got ugly suddenly, embarrassingly, forcefully. Things got really ugly regularly, truly, quickly. Things got really incredibly ugly. Things will get less ugly, inevitably, hopefully. So this is what I mean. Here's South Carolina. I should probably end on that one. I'll end on that one. South Carolina, American sonnet for Independence Day. So cleaning the palate. But here's something that's almost a sonnet, an open plot. When she pulled out her pearl-handled switchblade, the metal catching moonshine was like a small lightning breaking from her grip. Afraid as she was of ghosts, she had perhaps only half listened to the children. They had seen in the districts of distress the undressed afflictions, sights of bloody address and sadness. We took the path behind an abandoned house of worship, the angels' worship where the devil's bullshit was whipped by the lips at the pulpit. I had been telling the family a story about the future to keep from losing my mind and gotten us lost among modest headstones made of everything but stone. Exit had been painted hastily on a sign above an open plot, holding at the bottom a darkness and a door. The mother, holding that blade of caution before her, was the first through the door, and the children and I came after. Two more. So all year I've been just doing like poems on air. I can't really even tell you what it is. You never know. I just write. I only brought one though. Poem on Oaxacan air. I was in Oaxaca and I heard a story, so you know, it's on that air. The bones of the nuns' infants, buried in the basement of the convent, eventually turned into the stone of the foundation, where stacked boxes of holy books and habits mold or wait to be sold, weighted in dust, lifting from the stones, so that when a box or book is opened, the smell of the past infects the nose, the air turning into breath in the lungs, down into the molecules where DNA turns into RNA, which turns into protein. Instructions turn into messages, which turn into machinery. There are tales of children who escaped in the boxes of books and fabrics confiscated from the younger of the nuns and a few of the old. The pages of the books are deeply wrinkled now, as are the unlawful, colorful fabrics used to swaddle the children. Dust now as well, hustled by the light of the furnace, smuggled from the convent into our wobbling world. And finally, yeah, I mean, we're doing sonnets. So it's just a South Carolina American sonnet for Independence Day. The comfort in the smell of bacon in the morning is mostly burning fat and salt, but the taste is sweet as the part of the pig that stores the soul. If you don't bless it, it might choke you, my mother likes to say over the plates. My definition of family includes the sense kinfolk know and think they know things about you, but only share these things with family members when you ain't in the room. Last time I was home, my cousin offered me hash, a ground up, boiled, antebellum mash of leftover hog, liver and lung, brain to snout and skull, covered in hot sauce and served on a bed of instant rice. I said, hell no. But I let a bit touch my tongue to be polite before saying hell no twice. Thank y'all.
Okay, y'all are amazing. I think maybe another round of applause for them. Yeah, so good. Yeah, and this is incredible. So here we are, Emily Dickinson's house. There's been a little talk that Emily Dickinson is the gateway drug, right? So I would love to hear each of you tell like your first drug experience with Emily Dickinson. You know, so like on the setting, I want to like feel it. I want to hear the lines. I want to just give me the first experience.
What is it? What's the poem I was looking at yesterday? I could not love you. I could not live with you. I cannot live with you. So now I'm drawing a blank on it. That's the poem I teach most often because of the different ways you could think about that you in the poem. But really, as I said, I mean, I could be honest with that. Like Dickinson is a challenge. And most of the poetry that I got into would not have been in school. So I like Shakespeare, obviously, from school. But most of the stuff I was reading was not going to be. So my teacher was like, you're going to love Langston Hughes, which I was like, okay, I can read him once, and I got it. And then she was like, maybe you like T.S. Eliot, my 9th grade teacher. And then I was like, no, too complicated. And Dickinson was just, I was mystified by it, which kept me with it. So the thing that I was saying to the students yesterday, like, I think in the long run, the things that were most rewarding to me were self-driven. So I just remained interested in Dickinson without really getting a lot of the work until maybe my 30s when I started teaching it. But beyond that, just as I said to you, the practice that Dickinson of just writing every day and not really being so hung up on whether it was going to be a book or be published or even whether it was perfect, is just more useful for one that wants to get writing done. So I'm not even going to say for a writer, for one that wants to get writing done, it's better to just be working all the time. And that's what Dickinson did. And so that's extremely useful. And that is the thing that I would prioritize even over Whitman at this point.
Yeah, no, I guess I didn't even know till you reached on this. I think I came to her late, but I mean, what is late? You know what I mean? I came to her right on time. I think the themes of her writing were always part of my existence. You know, death, mortality, but also like life and like looking at the beauty of things. I often teach her as a way of deep looking. Like I often teach her as a way of like, how do you look at something but really love it when you're looking at it? So, and it's digestible, right? And it's hard to parse. The syntax can be really hard to parse. But isn't that the point of poetry, right? To slow us down, to make us stop and pause and think about a line of something or a leaf of something, right? And I think I'm just enamored with her way of her love for identifying things and kind of spending time with what she understands about them and using them as this like really crazy metaphor, beautiful metaphor. Yeah. So I can't say I really came to her.
Yeah.
What were you saying about the
Yeah.
ordinary? I think that's
Yeah.
really good.
Oh,
This is your first ninth grade experience?
Yeah, in
At
ninth
dinner.
grade in Tulsa, Oklahoma, my teacher, Mrs. Lubbock, who I've tried to find, but I can't. So
She's in
if
Texas.
you're out there,
Lubbock.
yeah, she might
Lubbock,
be,
Texas.
right. Right. Yeah. So, but she assigned us, I heard a fly buzz when I died, and we had to write about the ordinary with the extraordinary. And I wrote, and as the world was ending, the eyelash fell from her emerald eye. You know, so, but it's just always stuck with me. So.
Well, to sustain, I said this too about inspiration. To sustain a life as a writer, you would have to be transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, as opposed to waiting to be inspired, which is what people think happens with poems. If you're trying to not be inspired, you got to find it in the ordinary, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we had an amazing panel today about correspondence, you know, thinking of the ordinary and the extraordinary beside each other, and thinking of Emily Dickinson and all of her correspondences. I would love to hear your relationships with correspondence. Do you have people you correspond with? And what's like the texture of your correspondence? Do you put things in envelopes? Do you know, we had a little debate about if email is legit. There was some talk about texting and being left on read. So,
I mean, I write letters. Like, I write physical letters to people, and I send them in the mail. And I like to put, like, things that I find, like, on the ground or, like, in the world, like stickers and stuff. Shout out to my friend Erin, who, like, when I am, like, really struggling, you get letters from me. And, like, so shout out to anybody who wants a letter. Like, reach out. I'll send you a letter. But it's just usually, like, musings about how I feel, but also what I'm seeing. And it's nothing important, right? But, you know, but it is a way, it's an outlet. But that was a craft that, like, I came to later. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just most recently, after spending all summer trying to figure out the artificial intelligence question, like, and for grad students, for my NYU grad students who are like the future Ocean Vuongs, the future Ada Limons. So I'm talking to future teachers about how to teach this stuff. And at the end, without going through all of it, I was just like, I think we want to think of poems as either letters or prayers, and not as these things that are crafted now that there's something in the world that can probably eventually craft it as well as you can. So what would you be trying to do to be the thing that can have all the technical skills? And it is the letter principle of thinking that the poem is going to someone, or it's going up. I guess it can go down too. Prayer can go down. So you know that it has a direction to it that is not to make this beautiful thing, because again, now you have something in your pocket that is going to compete with the capacity for making that. So that's the first thing. But what I use this thing to do, because I've always written letters, I like to draw. I have a fairly regular letter. When Tony Hoagland, we wrote letters for years. We passed, he sent it all back to me, which I hadn't thought about. Like, what do you do when your person you've been writing letters passes away? But the thing I did after all of this artificial intelligence research was create a handwriting font. So I was like, how do I create? I don't want to be writing all these letters all the time. Is there a way to just have my own handwriting as a font? And of course it was like, yes, do this, do this, do this. So now I have, and that's what it's for. That is what artificial intelligence is for. It's to create your own font and nothing else.
Love it. Wait, so do you think with AI that craft will become, I mean, because, I don't know, probably AI could write a sonnet right now about what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, mine does. I trained mine. Mine does.
Right.
I mean, we'll go down a real rabbit hole if I start talking to you about it. But yeah, I would say, if my students read, I trained my graduate student. I trained it to do a light pink version of that. So that means most people in the audience are not going to know the difference between red and light pink, and there is a problem. If you follow me, it's not us. We know the difference between what the machine does, but maybe other people don't. So I think Hallmark, that's in Kansas. I feel like Hallmark could use artificial intelligence in this way and be like, I'd like to write a poem for my mother for the time she cut up my Kermit the Frog. She really did. And I was 6. I wanna say I understood it, you were young at the time, you know, and it would do it. I could be like, do it in the style of Sharon Olds. That would be a good Hallmark business. And again, that would be the use of it, the commercial use of something. But yeah, based on what I've seen, I definitely think it can get a light pink version of a very sophisticated red poem. And that's scary to me. Yeah. I'll show it to you later. I can read you some of the things that we've been talking about, me and the machine.
I would love to see that too, because I think I just have an apprehension. You know that, and this is not for everybody. Like, I really live on the page. Like, I really live with handwriting and writing, and not messing with the computer a lot. But that's just like, I feel like I'm maybe.
But can I say, to get us back on track, Dickinson is really the answer. Like, it is about not genre. So, like, the letter's great because it can be everything. I mean, look, I'm teaching now, because this is what I'm saying to my grad students. Like, the answer is materiality to beat the machine. Because, yes, it will be able to do anything you can do inside of the computer will be able to do. I mean, that's common sense. How much energy it takes is a problem. But whether you'll be able to do it is not. How much it's going to consume to do that. So I would say to you, obviously getting offline, but the tangibility of making is that's Emily Dickinson in a nutshell. And I'm saying to you, that is really the future. And that's what we're trying to give our students, something that's embodied, something that's prayer-like, something that's handwritten. Otherwise, I don't know how else we would compete with what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, that like internal spirit of creativity, like there's nothing else that could replicate that.
It's why we're here. It's why we're talking about
exactly.
Dickinson, because of this fact that's always been true, that we have to make things, bring things into the world. I mean, that's what she was doing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think a lot about that. And I love that you brought the word embodied up, because I was wanting to ask you both, each and both, if you have, like, I feel like more and more this idea of embodiment and having other people's poems or songs inside of you is really incredible. So might you each have something maybe memorized?
Come on.
It could be a poem.
I can't believe you asking that question.
It could be a poem or a song, but something like I tell my students, like being able to stand on the subway platform and have a poem already in your body, in your head, that you can just repeat over and over. Like that will take you much further than almost anything I can teach you. So like what lives inside of you?
Those Winter Sundays, that's a good one.
Go ahead, read it.
My son knows Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. Also amazing, I just want to say first. The Frost, whose woods are these? I think I know. His house is in the village,
though. He will not see me
that's all I'm going to say. So the thing about, the reason I like this sonnet, having memorized it, even though I'm not sure I've got it memorized anymore, is it has more than one volta in it. So when I went into this idea of the American sonnet, I was like, well, you know, the Italian sonnet, English sonnet, one turn. But for us, we're just revolving all the time. And I think the first time I'd ever thought that was in this poem, because it's like shifting in temperatures. Let's see here. Sundays too, my father got up early and then put on his clothes in the blue, black cold and then with cracked hands that ached from labor in weekday weather, made banked fires blaze. I think that's the first stanza. No one ever thanked him. When the rooms were warm, there's the first turn, I would rise, fearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. And here's the second turn. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices?
That last line kills me. I actually quoted that last line in class the other day. A student brought in but that is such a good last turn.
So I know a teacher in Ohio at Columbus State who used to give it as like a test, like to argue for it as or not as a sonnet. And I don't know if there was a right answer, but it's a good conversation about like, what is a sonnet? Does it work or not? So yeah, that's a good one.
That was beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Pressure though, how dare you ask somebody to pick out a poem, memorized. You should have told me that in the kitchen when we were having dinner. I would have
practiced too. Why'd you do that? For my like anxiety, ADHD, right? Like I can't do like on the spot like this. So, but I feel like there are lines that like me and my husband, like we quote rainbow, rainbow, rainbow to each other. Or Joe McDonough's poem, like, what is that line from Joe McDonough? We were scared, weren't we? Like we like quote like, and we'll find it in every day. We'll be like, we were scared, weren't we? And we know that's our like love language, right? Just quoting weird, obscure lines to each other, but only the people are like, why are you doing that? yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. We were scared, weren't we? I mean, you're allowed to invite your husband to recite a poem.
I'm afraid to heal from your poem.
Anything else? Anything you wish I would have asked that I haven't before we turn to the audience?
Yeah. You look like you're thinking about another question or something. What you want to know, Nicole?
I mean, I want to know everything.
It's great to be here. I can't believe people came out on a Saturday night, sitting in Emily Dickinson's backyard.
I'm saying.
Watching two black poets on the stage read poetry.
In her
Dickinson
garden?
would not have known that.
In her garden? It's wild out
That's
here.
Right.
It's wild.
Poetry will do it. Poetry will do it. But I'm sure in her wildest dreams, she never thought something like this would be happening in 2025.
I mean, maybe.
She might still be here. Who knows? She might be right here in front of us. What do we know about life after death? She could be here. That's right.
Any advice for young poets?
Write every day. I'm telling you. Even finishing it, it's nice to have something to work on. Toy Derricott, who's been my teacher for the longest, she started Cave Canem. She was present at the birth of both of my children, who is now just about blind. When Toy was younger, she would always talk about Ruth Stone going blind and reciting poems to her daughter up in Vermont. And Toy now, it comes and goes, but she heard from Sonia Sanchez, who I think turned 90 this year, maybe 91, to get up every day and write a haiku to get your day in order. So she learned that maybe 5 years ago when she turned 80, so Toy does it. So she sent me these weird, strange haiku for Christmas with skulls and all kinds of stuff in it, because she's a poet, so she knows she's gonna die. She's very present with that. And I would just say, like, all I want is to be like an 88-year-old black woman living by myself and writing a haiku a day. That's what she does.
I think one of the things I often tell students is that be open to the possibility of change. Like, be open to the possibility that your voice is going to change, that the more you read and the more you write, your identity is going to change, and like to trust those shifts in language and to trust the shifts in like your perspective. I think that sometimes students feel it's like urgency to be the thing that they are the most influenced by forever, and I'm just like, but you'll find other influences, you'll find other questions to ask about yourself, and your poems will change. So to like trust that shift in your voice, it's okay to ask questions. And I think another thing is just find your people.
Yeah, I love the changing thing, because I actually say this in relationships, but it's true across the board. The power of changing your mind. Yeah, that part. I mean, will you get into a fight if you're like, I just changed my mind? So certainly inside of one's career, it's very important to be like, I thought this, and now I think that. I think that's a really great thing to have.
So shall we dwell in possibility?
Yes,
Right?
we do.
And I found my people. I'm nobody. Who are you? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I think we have a few minutes for questions from the audience, and Zoom people are coming in. There's someone waving a hand in the back.
As we get into the Q&A, for those of us in the tent, I can bring around the microphone because our friends online will want to be able to hear the questions, and this is how we'll do it. So, oh boy, Benigno, I'm coming way around.
So before you mentioned how amazing it is to have a tent full of people on Saturday night listening to black poets, I've heard that wonder also here. And when you mentioned it, the thing that rose to me, in me, was, well, of course, this is a commonwealth. This is a commonwealth.
Language.
And I've been traveling abroad and saying I'm from Massachusetts. I've been hiding in Florida, afraid, and saying to people, I'm from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Never thought I feel so foolishly protected by my state rights. And all of a sudden, you said, what a wonderful thing, what a weird thing to have so many people in a tent listening to poetry. And the thing that rises in me, this is a commonwealth.
Poetry is our commonwealth.
How can you tell us more about how poetry is the commonwealth?
I mean, you're here, you're saying it. You are the evidence. Just that we're here. I mean, again, this still goes back like the analog and the doing and the making and the embodied. I mean, we don't really have to explain it because we're here. That's what's so beautiful about it. We don't have to know why anybody's here. I just see you. That's enough. I ain't got to know your name. I can smell you. I can stand, I can brush against you. That's enough. So I think that this notion of commonwealth, I just thought language when you started saying it, like this, the space of language that we share, the shelter of language that we share, dwelling in language. Language is the possibility, so certainly language is our commonwealth, even if it's being perverted everywhere. And I think we're just here trying to say that, it's not all perverted, it's not all lost, the way we think of language, even though I think obviously, that's why I said watch a bunch of news. You got to watch all of it because all of it's going to be a different use of language, and you're going to try to add that up to something that makes sense to you. And I don't remember that from my youth, like having to test the truth against all these other markets to see what it was. But certainly that's what it feels like now. But I would just say poetry helps against gaslighting because of the intuitive part. Yeah. It requires emotional intelligence, not artificial intelligence. It requires emotional intelligence. And so I guess we're just trying to say sometimes the words do mean things, and we're just trying to say we make a living at it. We're in the yard of someone who made a living at it, so we have to say, we hope it doesn't take 100 years to get it right again. But I think certainly language is our commonwealth, is what I would say.
And I know you said, I just think I want to just add, just holding space, both internally and externally. Y'all are holding space for me, and I'm holding space for you. And I think that poetry is a conversation that way, both with ourselves and with the outside. And there's no control over that. That's the scariest thing about it, right? We have no control. But I always pay attention to the energy in a room. And this energy here today, it's good. It's that kind of energy that's restorative. Yeah, because there are spaces sometimes that I walk in and it is not restorative, and I walk away more drained. And
call that online spaces.
But also sometimes physical spaces, mostly So I'm just grateful that y'all are here to hold space with us, and we're holding space for you at the same time.
We have an online space that is not at all draining right now. That has about 150 people in it, and they love you. They love you so much.
Wish they were here.
And they have some questions, so maybe I'll throw one out for you, and then we can go back to any questions in the audience. So when you are writing, do you see images or hear sounds in your mind? What is your internal experience as the poem is coming through?
Beggars can't be choosers. I take it anywhere it comes. On my phone, on a note, again, we're still talking about Emily Dickinson. On a piece of paper, I lose a lot of poems written out on a piece of paper. I have notability, I have notebooks, and I'm saying if it's good, maybe it'll come back to it. Sometimes it takes a little while. But I'm really saying I try not to have any rituals, is what I would say to you. I try to take it wherever it comes. I beg for it. So I'm a person, you can ask my ex-wife, you can ask my closest friends, they like, Terrance works, Terrance is disciplined. And I'm like, no, I just don't have any standards. So I'm like, yeah, I wrote today, Terrance. Low, that's repetition. So if you start about that low, you can build up from there. But I think you gotta have low standards. Revision, believe in revision, it can start out as whatever.
But I think I heard it differently. So I'm just gonna ask again, because I heard it as, when you're writing, are you image based? Like, do you have does a spoon come into your mind?
I'm saying
or
I don't. I don't have
sound?
any. I can't even answer that question because it suggests that I would prioritize anything that comes over something else, and I'm saying I really don't. Sometimes it's a phrase, it's a color. I'm trying to think what I just wrote down today. It's just people say things sometimes and I'll carry it forward. But it's everything. I mean, it's the ordinary. How about that, if we're making connections?
And this is why he's Terrance Hayes, and we're all here listening to him. He's like, it's everything. Okay, beautiful.
No, I think also it's just trusting that intuition, right? And leaning into it, because there are so many times when you can leave a line or leave an image or leave a witness alone, but it is like getting the courage or the audacity to put that on the page, right? And know that maybe this won't go anywhere, but here it is, right? And to just make that your living. What a strange thing to be the person on the train who's like fumbling, like I am all the time with paper, to get this witness on the page, and with no idea of where it's gonna go, and with no idea of what that's gonna come to, right?
Yeah, I love that audacity. Like the audacity of being like, I will be a poet. Completely audacious.
It is stamina, though. I mean, you can find a model for every kind of poem in the world. So I just think as a teacher, you're just trying to get people to keep going. This goes back to the craft thing, too, and it goes back to the letter and the prayer. Like, you trying to get them to go in some sort of life habit that is not about, even professionalism. It's not even about books, necessarily, if you're really trying to get out of language what you need, which goes back to this comment about the Commonwealth. It really ain't going to only be about, selling. And again, I just think we're in the yard of the best example of that, of what it means to be writing things down or have it not be perfect, or we were looking at all the different versions of certain adjectives in front of it, and I'm like, that makes perfect sense to me. That uncertainty makes perfect sense to me. So it's like our first example of something like negative capability of productivity in a negative capable space, I guess. I believe in that.
We have a question over here, and others of you, please get your questions ready.
Hi, I just want to thank you first, both. Thank you so much. I'm a senior at Amherst College. I'm finishing in the winter, and I'm working on a collection of poetry. So I'm asking as a young poet. And I think my poetry right now, it started off as a question of my Korean heritage and trying to fill in the gaps, and then it became a project about my mom. And I guess the question is, I don't want my poetry to feel too late, and I think I want my poetry to make me turn back to look at my own life. And I wanted to ask you both, how does the form of poetry fail you, and what do you do with that failure?
Man, for real, I'm gonna be honest, there are years where there is no writing. there is like witness and there's the work of the poet, but there is no poem. Does that make sense? So like your job is like collecting whatever you can for the poem in whatever emotional or physical capacity you can do that. You know what I mean? I feel that because a lot of people think like poetry, productivity, like producing for capitalism, we gotta get this going, we gotta publish this book. And I think that'll kill you, right? Whatever you're doing in the work of the poet, like you were talking about, that's kind of what matters. And sometimes it matters, can I dare say, over the poem sometimes. Like that interior work, that interiority, and then also the exterior work that doesn't have anything to do with the poem. Is that helpful? Okay.
I just think like obsessions are fine, even if I just look at the work that I shared tonight. And I made a little comment like, oh, there's this bird image running through it. And I said, my mom is a bird. And you can see even in the little sampling of poems, even when I'm not explicitly saying my mother, I think of my mother as a bird, I'm working that out. So, and it's all figuratively true is what I would say. So I do think of my father as someone solid, you can't knock him over, but also like, just there, stiff. And my mother's like trying to beat against this cage and her energy. And so you get a narrative like that. But when I was in graduate school, it would have been like, you get your mother poem and that bird, you solved it, you good. You can't bring that image back again. It's got to be more surprising. Yeah. And I think maybe I thought that it's like the power of invention. And I certainly think with the first book, you feel that you got to invent something. But I would just be like, whatever gets you writing, it's the same idea. Whatever gets you writing is right. So if every poem was about your mom and only one line was different, I'd be like, if it meant something, if you got some energy from that, that would be good. Are people gonna buy it? Maybe in 100 years. It's that kind of thing. Like I wouldn't say no to anything. I wouldn't say no to anything about what you would make in terms of its value to others. Therefore, I wouldn't worry about that. I'd be like, the people who need it will find it, even if it was just one letter on every page. We know that there's a precedent for everything. So the idea is really just to kind of follow your intuition, follow your gut, follow the thing that gets you back to the page. That's it, really. I mean, I don't know who wants to finish anything. If we're doing change says it's never going to be finished. So yeah, my mother's still a bird. I still am trying to reconcile that, which it says, even in my mid-50s, I'm still reconciling an essential relationship with my mother. And I certainly feel weird about that. I feel weird about it now. I feel weird about it in a world on fire with these things going on and saying like, am I still writing about birds? But it's what comes, and beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, I remember Sharon Olds saying once, like, we're all writing the same poem over and over. So I think, and maybe we're all writing mother as bird poem over and over. I think that's...
Father is bull, bull whip.
Father is bull, mother is bird.
Bulwark.
Right.
Other questions? Yeah, let me come this way.
We'll repeat it.
Thank you. Thank you both. I've got a problem. Problem is, I can read your poetry, and that has a feeling. And then I listen to you, and it's transformed. And I cry. And I'm moved. And there's a rhythm and a beat. It's like, if I read the notes to take the A train, I've got my feeling for that, and I can see the notes on the page. But when Duke wrote that, there was something else going on. And when then they play it, it's like, oh, that's how it goes. So sometimes a poem stands on itself, just on the written page, and sometimes I have to hear it, and it's like, it totally transforms it. So how do you talk to a reader about that? And then the other part of the question is, when you're writing the poem, do you already hear the song, the rhythm, the beat, that you then are presenting it when you present it?
I got a smart aleck answer, so you should sit here.
Well, I want to say, because you said you have a problem, I think I think it's right. It is your problem because I think it's true. I mean, once we hear a poet reading their work, that voice is in our head, and when we look at their work, we can see that more. But it is on the page. It really is there. I mean, of course, it adds so much to hear these incredible people reading their work. But at the same time, it's on the page.
My answer is this is
Yeah.
true across everything. So the biggest example would be church. I mean, like, if we didn't need the preacher, we would stay home reading the Bible. So clearly the preacher's oratory, and maybe the choir too, to that text is like a separate experience. And so I certainly teach audience versus reader. So with my students, I'm like, we're gonna do a thing with everybody and you'll get a sense of your audience, because these are really smart people in this workshop. But if you wanna know what a reader thinks, you gotta come see me. And I'm a person who's read, I always say this, I'm a person who's read 1 million poems. So probably I'm gonna be overdoing it. You know, you just need somebody who's read maybe 10,000 poems to have a career as a poet. So, but what you want is a reader and you want an audience. You want both. And so I say the reader is doing a letter thing and maybe the audience is, again, doing something that kind of happens in oratory and public speaking. So I think it's a great advantage that we have, in fact, that we get to do this in a way that maybe fiction writers can't quite do it. But the church, I think that's the indication that clearly people like to have a little bit of something with their reading. Otherwise, just stay home. Just take your Bible and go home. You know, like clearly like a little fireworks going with what they're reading, and that's kind of what a lot of other things are in the artistic field.
One more?
Yeah, I've got another
more?
one from the folks at home.
Yeah.
And if there's no one else in the house, this might be a good one to end on. So where do you see... Okay, first I have to tell you, Terrance, this comes from an old classmate of yours. Tasha Moffat. All right? Now an attorney Tasha Moffat. Asking, where do you see the future of poetry, more specifically in this political climate? Do you find that students are angry writers?
Is this specific for me?
For all of you.
Some of them are trying to get away. I thought last spring, I said at the end of the semester to my, again, graduate students, undergrads are different. Undergrads are too open and too vulnerable, maybe, to have these kinds of like clear paths that distract them. But at the end, in April, I was like, you wouldn't know that the world was sort of what it was. And so I took that to mean that people were escaping the outdoor frustrations in every way that it was to write poems. And I think that's legitimate. You know, you can get away from things. But what it is, I mean, I think clearly as long as we got language, it can't be policed. Breath can't be policed. So you think it'll always exist. How it exists, though, I'm good with this. I mean, even parties, I don't need more than about 10 people for a party. 15 people, I'm leaving. So, but for something like this, I'm saying to you, like, this is evidence, is what I said before. Like, I don't really have to anticipate much other than, like, people came out on a Saturday night for poetry. If there were 5 people, I'd be like, okay, we got 5. We got 5 to work with. We got a tent to work with. So those questions about the future just goes back to the one day at a time thing. Tribe finding tribe. It was never about any kind of like, or a commonwealth certainly, but it was never about any kind of like accumulation of wealth. So it's not going to be numbers that we're asking about for the future. We just need like Emily Dickinson to be in her corner room, women walking around on the battlefield, Langston Hughes going over to Russia. You know, these kinds of things. We need Stevens to be an insurance person. We need Eliot to be a banker. So I'm saying, like, infiltrating the culture. We need everybody to be. We need William Carlos Williams to be a doctor.
Well, I love that idea of our ancestors being with us, you know. I mean, not all of our ancestors, but
we got bad ancestors, the good ones and the bad. They're all with us.
But the good ones, you know, like the ones who care, like we should be caring about each other. You know, I want those people here.
The bad ancestors remain in generational trauma. Right. They are more present than the good ancestors.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question, Tasha? Tasha was in the only creative writing class I took, intro to creative writing class in my 10th grade, sophomore year. Tasha was in that class. I think she might have went on to write more poetry or something. That's all I ever took. So I think it's all creative writing. I still think that because of that class, that it should not be MFA in poetry, nonfiction. It should be like an MFA in creative writing. So we can do what we want to do.
I just need students to just be writing. Yeah. That's it. I think that's like that. And I also just need people to be writing towards possibility in the future. Like, I need to see myself in the future. And I think students need to see themselves in the future. So, like, writing whatever you want. Like, if that comes out angry, then that just comes out angry.
I don't know that they do either,
Yeah.
this notion of, like, how far down the road can students see.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think they see very far. That's not a good thing.
It's not. But also, let's ask questions about the future. Let's ask questions about what our possibility looks like. I don't care if you write an angry poem. Just write a poem. I don't know. Yeah.
So you all know that Emily Dickinson herself sought the advice of a preceptor, Thomas Wentworth Higginson, who published a letter to a young contributor, to which she responded with a lot of good advice, and that formed one of her critical literary relationships. And so, kind of keeping with this theme of student and preceptor, we will take away certain bywords from this evening. The ones that struck me are the tangibility of making, trust change, make space for yourself and for your poetry community, and above all, maintain low standards.
That's right.
Yeah. If I could hear Krysten Hill's voice in my head when I read her poetry, I would have way more food for thought than I could consume in a lifetime. If I could kind of follow the rules of grammar, that especially, if you'll pardon me, Terrance, American adverbial sonnets, well, I would be overjoyed. And if I could have the poetic insights that Nicole Callihan has, yeah, absolutely. That would also last me. But I want you all to join me in thanking our presenters for a splendid evening of poetry.